This is Top. Here are 100 scary traveler stories that will make you think. A person can't fit through there? Inside the Great Pyramid are strange passages long believed to be ventilation shafts, but neither air nor people can pass through them. These shafts start in the so-called Queen's Chamber and extend upward at a sharp angle, ending in stone plugs with copper fittings. Initially, they weren't taken seriously until a robot was sent in. In 1993, engineer Rudolf Gantenbrink designed a mechanism that was able to crawl inside. It moved along the smooth walls as if the shaft had been specially polished. At the end of its path, the robot found a stone slab with 2 pins like door handles. Something seemed hidden behind it, but it was urgently recalled. The archaeologists stayed silent. Egyptian authorities denied a second attempt, and Gantenbrink was removed from the project. The second robot, launched later, drilled a tiny hole, and behind it was another chamber. It is unclear whether it was empty or if no one wants to reveal what was found inside. No one could have used these shafts during their lifetime. They are too narrow. However, they are perfect for storing something that was meant to remain untouched. The man of the hole in Brazil, they simply called him the man of the hole, was the last survivor of a destroyed tribe. He lived for 26 years in complete solitude, avoiding contact and never once speaking to outsiders. He dug deep traps in the ground, either for hunting or for shelter. His nickname comes from his tribe being killed by farmers in the 90s afterward. He vanished into the forests and never returned. The government protected his 8,000-hectare territory. They gave him tools and food, but he refused most of it. He even shot an arrow at an employee who got too close. In 2022, he was found dead in a hammock with a feather ornament nearby and no signs of violence. Apparently, he knew he was dying and passed away peacefully. He left no words, no story, only traces. But his silence speaks volumes. The second Sphinx of Giza, Eastern Edge Plateau. Everyone knows the Stone Guardian, about the Pyramid of Khafre, but in ancient texts, Egyptologist Bassam Ash-Sham found a strange duality. The Sphinx is both the father and mother of fear, and this is what lies between its front paws. The stele of Thutmose IV depicts 2 creatures, not just one. A nearby clay tablet describes a statue struck by lightning, which shattered its metal-crowned head. Lightning is drawn to metal. Cairo University geophysicists used ground-penetrating radar to examine the dunes south of the current Sphinx at a depth of about 4 meters. The instruments found a dense, elongated shape, nearly 60 meters long, matching the monument's body size, without a head. The signature differs from typical limestone layers, which suggests it is a man-made object. The find hasn't been excavated due to sand collapse risks, possible wall cracks in nearby temples, and concerns from officials about altering the plateau's appearance. Excavation is banned, so the possible Sphinx mother stays buried, but the complex still preserves half of the original design. The 2 sphinxes were carved from one rock about 10,000 years ago, when the Sahara had a humid climate. Later, one of them lost its head due to a lightning strike. The ruined statue was buried in sand, and the superstitious priests wouldn't restore the bad omen. 1,000 years later, Thutmose IV discovered and restored the statue's surviving father. Since then, we have only seen half of the design, and as long as the mysterious shape lies beneath the sand, the history of Giza remains unfinished, like a missing page from a great book. The tomb of Tutankhamun. This discovery became one of the most famous archaeological finds of the 20th century. This is the final resting place of the young pharaoh, who ruled Egypt from 1332 to 1323 before Christ. During the time of the 18th dynasty, unlike other royal tombs, its size and decoration are quite modest, which is probably due to the unexpected death of Tutankhamun at a young age. It is possible that this tomb was not originally intended for the pharaoh, but was adapted for him due to a lack of time. Despite its modest size, the tomb surprised researchers with the quantity and splendor of the burial items. Among the finds were gold jewelry, household items, a throne, furniture, clothing, and of course, the famous golden burial mask of Tutankhamun, which has become a symbol of ancient Egyptian culture. A total of more than 5,000 artifacts were found, each of which helped reveal important details about the life and death of the pharaohs. The tomb was discovered in 1924 by the British archaeologist Howard Carter and his team. Their discovery created a worldwide sensation, not only because of the enormous amount of treasures, but also thanks to the exceptional preservation of the artifacts, which shed light on the era of Tutankhamun's reign. The most important difference between Tutankhamun's tomb and all the others is its preservation. It has remained in its original state. This discovery became a landmark event in Egyptology and still remains one of the most important archaeological discoveries of all time. Let's hope it's not the last. Ruins of the oldest underwater civilization. In the early 2000s, a team of researchers working under the Canadian company Advanced Digital Communications made a sensational discovery. Off Cuba's coast, about 750 meters deep on the ocean floor, strange structures resembling stone constructions were discovered. These structures looked like organized rows of giant stone blocks, some of which had a regular rectangular shape and resembled massive walls or pyramid-like constructions. The initial results of underwater research conducted using modern sonar led to the hypothesis of a possible sunken city that might have been swallowed by the ocean tens of thousands of years ago. According to some estimates, the age of these ruins may exceed 50,000 years, which is significantly older than the earliest known civilizations such as Sumer and ancient Egypt. This makes the possible discovery even more intriguing, as it suggests the existence of ancient and possibly highly developed cultures that science knows nothing about yet. Some scientists believe that these ruins may represent the remains of an ancient city built before the last ice age, when the sea level was significantly lower. There is a theory that this area could have been inhabited by ancient peoples who were later forced to leave their homes due to rising sea levels. This hypothesis is supported by proponents of the theory about the existence of ancient sunken continents, such as Atlantis, described in the works of Plato. Some geologists suggest that these formations may be the result of natural geological processes, such as erosion, earthquakes, and other movements of the Earth's crust. Further research and analysis of Cuba's underwater ruins will take considerable resources and time. Hopefully, authorities will secure the means to study these ancient sites. Obsidian mirror. Ancient civilizations of Mexico used obsidian mirrors, or tezcatl, as tools for divination. By gazing into the depths of the mirror, sorcerers would travel to the world of gods and ancestors. Obsidian mirrors can be seen as a metaphor for the image of ancient Mexican monuments. They reflect not only the object, but also the one who is looking. The main accessory of the supreme Aztec god, Tezcatlipoca, is precisely the obsidian mirror. His name translates as smoking mirror. He is often depicted with a mirror on his chest in his ornaments or in place of his right leg, Tezcatlipoca. He was lord of the night and its creatures, especially the jaguar, which was believed to move between the earthly and underworld realms. In 1969, the American artist Robert Smithson visited the Mayan ruins, following the path of the writer John Lloyd Stevens. Despite traveling through the territory of the Maya, Smithson claimed he embodied Tezcatlipoca. This experience inspired him to create a work of art in which he used mirrors to illustrate movement through time. In early 20th century Mexico City, Auguste Genin, a French-born Mexican collector, gathered a large collection of pre-Columbian artifacts. Ancient Mexican mirrors from his collection have survived to this day in various shapes and sizes. Sometimes they were reused, inserted into Christian crosses, or as symbols of vanity. Ritual table in Tavatepe, in Azerbaijan, a team of Italian and Azerbaijani archaeologists discovered a 3,500-year-old ritual table in the ancient settlement of Tavatepe. This place is located near the borders of Armenia, Georgia, and Azerbaijan. During the excavations, a round adobe structure was found. The building includes a kitchen area and a ritual table. Between 1,500 and 750 before Christ, during the Late Bronze and Early Iron Ages, Nomadic peoples likely used Tavatape as a resting place before traveling through the mountains. Archaeologists also found a ritual table with 8 indentations and many ceramic containers, bowls, vessels made of black-fired ceramics, and long flat stones for mixing food. In the corner of the kitchen, a thick layer of ash and clay tokens with fingerprints have been preserved, which may have served as food ration tokens. Originally, wooden columns stood at the entrance, and a thatched roof covered the 15-meter-wide complex. Outside, animal bones and discarded pottery were found, as well as human figurines placed in sacrificial pits. And the fact that the structure was sealed along with all the pottery indicates its ceremonial nature. The secret of the 4,000-year-old artifact is hidden in Kazakhstan. That year, the archaeological world was puzzled by a stream of unique antiquities on the antique market: jewelry, weapons, and ceramics with exquisite designs and inlays appeared out of nowhere, raising questions about their origin. The items, noted for their intricate symbolism, were linked to Central Asia but were later found to be authentic. A 2002 investigation in Iran uncovered the secret behind these discoveries. The arrests of the dealers led to the discovery of the artifact's location, the valley of the Kharkov River, where a flood in 2001 exposed an ancient Bronze Age necropolis. Local residents began selling the artifacts, thereby revealing the existence of a previously unknown culture. The archaeologists were amazed by the discovery's scale and began studying the site, excavating the Maktutabad necropolis and 2 burial mounds, southern and northern. Konur Sandal, discovering in the process the remains of ancient structures and evidence of a highly developed civilization. In 2003, led by Yusuf Majidzadeh, systematic excavations began and continued for years, uncovering remarkable artifacts and evidence of an ancient city. Debates about the origin and significance of the Girafotskaya culture continue. Some scholars consider it the legendary Orata from Sumerian texts, while others suggest an association with the ancient kingdom of Markashi, despite differences in opinion. Jirovka excavations revealed key insights into the ancient civilization, giving Maktutabad more opportunities for research and discovery. The Eye of the Sahara and the Lost City of Atlantis. The Eye of the Sahara, also known as the Rishat structure, is an impressive geological formation in the Sahara Desert in Mauritania. This is a giant circular structure about 50 kilometers in diameter, clearly visible from space, which is how it got its name. The Eye of the Sahara is thought to have formed through natural processes, mainly Earth's crust, uplift, and erosion. Some researchers have considered it as a possible location of the legendary lost city of Atlantis, described by the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. According to Plato, Atlantis was an island state located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the modern Strait of Gibraltar, with a highly developed civilization that suddenly disappeared as a result of a catastrophic flood around 9,600 before Christ. Over time, the idea of the existence of Atlantis fueled the imagination of many generations of researchers, writers, and enthusiasts. Some theories suggest the Eye of the Sahara matches descriptions of Atlantis because its circular and ringed structure resembles the concentric canals and islands Plato described. However, scientific data indicate that the Rishat structure was formed as a result of natural geological processes, not as a result of human activity or a catastrophe. Despite the lack of direct evidence for the existence of Atlantis, the mystery of this mythical city continues to captivate the minds of scientists and fans of the mystical. The Eye of the Sahara, despite its natural origin, remains one of the most mysterious and visually unique places on Earth, attracting the attention of researchers and tourists from all over the world. The supernatural ruin of Mohenjo-daro. In 1922, an officer of the Archaeological Service of India, together with a Buddhist monk, went to an area that turned out to be a religious monument, instead of mounds of mud and stones. In Sindh, now in modern Pakistan, a Bronze Age city was discovered featuring a street grid, dock, drainage systems, and flush toilets. The city was part of the Harappan civilization, which reached its peak 5,000 years ago and ceased to exist around 1,900 before Christ. The Mound of the Dead is the legacy of one of the oldest civilizations. Mohenjo-Daro's inhabitants were not inferior to those of Egypt or ancient Sumer. At one time, about 35,000 people lived in this region, but archaeologists have managed to find only 43 skeletons that have survived to this day. The disappearance of the city was mysterious, but in 1977, a British researcher discovered evidence indicating that a powerful explosion was the cause. Melted stones and calcined skeletons suggest that the inhabitants of Mohenjo-Daro died instantly. In 2014, a mineralogy doctor conducted analyses suggesting links between the Arab civilization and aliens. This is indicated not only by the high level of development of the local inhabitants, but also by the fact that they were burned at a temperature of several thousand degrees. There are no volcanoes here, and there were no technologies capable of reaching such temperatures. The goddess of death, Keeper, settlement of Lem, a small limestone figurine from around 3,500 before Christ, a female silhouette, broad shoulders, arms akimbo, head, stump. These figures are often seen as fertility figurines, but this one was different. Lord Elfhand was the first modern owner. Within 6 years, all 7 family members died, and the figurine was passed on. In the next 3 households, similar events occurred: sudden deaths, illnesses, and accidents. When the new owner suspected a connection, he donated the figurine to the Royal Scottish Museum in Edinburgh. There, the rumors only grew stronger. One of the curators who worked with the exhibit died within a year. That's how the nickname Goddess of Death was born. What's real and what's just legend? There are few documents about the early owners, and the dates don't always match up. The curse likely arose from coincidences and media stories, but the chilling events have secured this figure's place among cursed items like Egyptian mummies and the Bassano vase. Ironically, it was probably created as a symbol of life and fertility, a goddess statuette meant to bring children, not take them away. Today, the exhibit is presented with a disclaimer: archaeology, fact, curse, and the culture surrounding the fact. But if I'm talking about strange discoveries, I can't ignore the Lem statuette. A tiny piece of limestone sparked a legend that lasted 4,000 years, traveling from a Cypriot village to a museum display. Deserted tunnels leading nowhere. In Egypt, there's a place off limits to tourists, not for safety, but due to too many questions. One of these areas is located just south of the Giza complex, beneath a layer of sand, a network of tunnels that have been buried and forgotten, or perhaps intentionally covered up. For years, locals have mentioned empty halls under the sand where echoes, drafts, and even smells suggest underground air. Officially, nothing exists there, and anything accidentally found was quickly covered up again. In the 2010s, researchers with a rare ground-penetrating radar permit found long, straight structures below the surface, possibly corridors, some with turns, tens of meters long, about 5 meters deep, all running strictly parallel to the main axis. A fee. Once the data reached the press, the permit was revoked, cameras removed, and sand replaced. Photos show the passage began in crevices among old ruins, with stone descents and steps leading down, all crudely sealed with cement and bricks. On one of these walls, someone scratched the word "silenced" in English with a nail. No one knows who wrote it. But this shows Egypt is defined more by what lies beneath than by what appears on the surface. And it's very important to someone that we don't go down there. A child with a lock on their leg. Poland, Penn Village, 17th century archaeologists discover a child's skeleton in an abandoned cemetery. The body, about 5 to 7 years old, is lying face down on the leg. A huge old iron padlock is on the leg. Only people they feared were buried like that. Not everyone. Could people in ancient times have feared a child? In folk beliefs, it was thought that a body buried face down wouldn't be able to rise, and the padlock was a kind of magical seal to keep the soul from leaving, returning, or causing harm. Nearby is another famous witch burial, a woman with a sickle on her neck, meant to decapitate her if she rose. This child is most likely part of the same tradition. The Sea of Galilee boat, also known as the Jesus boat, is an ancient fishing vessel dating back to the 1st century AD. This unique artifact was discovered in 1986 on the northwestern shore of the Sea of Galilee in Israel. when a drought caused the water level to drop significantly. The boat is 8.2 meters long, 2.3 meters wide, and has a preserved height of 1.3 meters, making it a typical vessel used for fishing and possibly for transporting people and goods across the Sea of Galilee. In ancient times, despite its nickname, the Jesus boat, there is no direct evidence that this boat was connected to Jesus Christ or his disciples. However, the discovery is historically and culturally significant, dating to the time when Jesus and his disciples preached, according to the Gospels. Near the Sea of Galilee, the boat may have belonged to local fishermen, as similar vessels were used daily in those times. The vessel was built from different types of wood, which indicates that it was repeatedly repaired in an effort to keep it seaworthy. This rare archaeological find offers a glimpse into the daily life of ancient people on the Sea of Galilee during the early Christian era. Winged demon. On an ancient seal in Israel, a 2,700-year-old stone seal was found with the image of a winged figure and inscriptions in ancient Hebrew. The find was made near the southern wall of the Temple Mount and dates back to the period of the first temple. The seal is made of black stone and is decorated with an inscription that translates as for Yehu-Ezer, son of Hoshayahu. Archaeologists noted that this is one of the most beautiful seals found in Jerusalem. The seal depicts a winged figure dressed in a striped shirt with a figure next to it. According to the Assyriologist, such winged demons are found in Neo-Assyrian art of the 7th centuries before Common Era and served as protective figures. The seal probably belonged to a high-ranking official of the Judean kingdom, served as an amulet and a symbol of authority. It reflects not only Assyrian influence, but also the owner's connection to the local Judean culture. It is twice as heavy as a whale. The prehistoric cow lived about 40 million years ago in the water. German paleontologists from the State Museum of Natural History in Stuttgart discovered its remains in southern Peru, where there was an ocean in prehistoric times. 13 vertebrae were found, each weighing about 100 kilograms, 4 ribs 1.5 meters long, and a giant femur. The excavation site was a shallow bay that divided the equatorial part of the continent in half. Scientists determined that the remains belonged to a creature that lived 40 million years ago. The creature weighed approximately 340 tons, making it the heaviest animal that ever existed on Earth. Even giant brontosaurus were lighter. After studying the find, scientists concluded that these huge creatures swam slowly, dived shallowly, and fed on what they found on the bottom: algae, mollusks, and small fish. In their way of life, they resembled manatees, which people exterminated in the 18th century. In appearance, they most likely also looked like manatees, although in reality, they were ancient whales of the Basilosaurus genus. The stone forest of Madagascar, Tsingy de Bemaraha, is a unique natural reserve located 70 kilometers from the western coast of Madagascar, representing a majestic landscape of limestone cathedrals, towers, and canyons. This place is perfect for hiking. It got its name from the local word tsingy, which means to walk on tiptoes, reflecting the feeling you get when crossing this uneven terrain. Tsingy de Bemaraha Reserve is a United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization World Heritage Site. Thanks to its unique geological formations and the diversity of endemic plant and animal species, the Manambolo River that flows through it serves as a source of life for the wildlife. The reserve also contains pristine lakes and mangrove swamps, which are home to local lemurs and birds, many of which are endangered. This reserve offers a variety of hiking trails, allowing visitors to explore its breathtaking terrain and immerse themselves in the untouched beauty of Madagascar's wildlife. As you walk through the reserve, you can see stunning views, hidden caves, and encounter amazing wildlife, making a visit to this place an unforgettable experience for adventurers and nature lovers alike. Tsingy de Bemaraha is often called the Stone Forest due to its landscape of stone towers, canyons, and crevices resembling a stone forest. Millions of years of erosion and weathering formed these unique structures, creating a realistic, otherworldly atmosphere. America was discovered 7,000 years earlier. The authors of a new study from the University of Bournemouth in the United Kingdom have presented evidence indicating that the first people settled North America not 14,000, but at least 23,000 years ago. This date was determined based on the analysis of ancient human footprints and fossilized plants. Until recently, it was believed that humans appeared on the continent through a corridor formed by melting ice 14,000 years ago. Scientists claimed that in the early 21st century, hypotheses about an earlier settlement of the continent emerged. The radiocarbon analysis of seeds found near human footprints was criticized. It was claimed that the seeds could have absorbed ancient salty water, which would distort the dating results. To refute this theory, researchers used flow cytometry, a method usually applied for analyzing human cells. This method enabled scientists to isolate and study individual vegetation particles. The second method, optically stimulated luminescence, also confirmed the age of the traces based on dating grains of ancient plants. The new analytical methods confirmed earlier scientific conclusions, suggesting the history of North America's first inhabitants should be reconsidered. The Visby lenses are a favorite pastime of archaeologists and historians. It's a game of what if. Many moments from the past, even seemingly insignificant ones, could have radically changed the course of human history. What if an early medieval scholar had found the Visby lenses and began studying optics in Europe 500 years sooner? The Visby lenses are a collection of high-quality optical lenses found on the Swedish island of Gotland in 1999. They date back to the 11th-12th centuries, made of quartz, and some lenses show signs of modification, probably for mounting in silver frames, which make them so recognizable. These lenses are similar to Abbas ibn Firnas's reading stones. This suggests that the lenses were produced in the Byzantine or Islamic Empire, then brought to Scandinavia and modified to suit local tastes. These lenses may have been used as magnifiers for reading or inspecting objects, and possibly as ornaments. Interestingly, ancient lenses have image quality nearly equal to modern ones, yet their origins are still unknown. The sudden presence and absence of these lenses in Scandinavia raises questions about whether they were purchased or taken as trophies. Did an Islamic or Byzantine craftsman come to Gotland, or was it the creation of a brilliant inventor from Gotland? No matter where the lenses come from, one could ask, what if they had fallen into the hands of an inventor who created a telescope 500 years before Galileo? What if the Vikings could study our solar system? What if the science of optics had started developing 500 years earlier? The Prince of Egypt, who loved his cat very much. Imagine a royal sarcophagus for a cat. This is exactly the kind of amazing discovery archaeologists made. This sarcophagus belonged to a cat that was dearly loved by Prince Thutmose, the eldest son of Pharaoh Menhotep III. The prince wanted his furry friend to be comfortable even after death. Goddess Isis spreads her wings to guard the cat mummy's peace, while the cat's soul rests at a lavish table of offerings. The sarcophagus lid reads, "May I join immortal souls in heaven, where I seek righteousness." Unfortunately, Prince Thutmose could not enjoy the company of his beloved for too long, and soon followed her to the heavens. After Thutmose died, his younger brother became Pharaoh Akhenaten, husband of Queen Nefertiti. This amazing sarcophagus was created during the reign of Amenhotep III, around 1353 before Christ, and it is now kept in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. And also, did you know how the Egyptians treated cats? Oh, it was true love. They adored little kittens, worshipped the goddess Bastet from Bubastis, and feared the majestic and stern Sekhmet, one of the incarnations of Hathor. But unfortunately, times change. In the era of the Renaissance, when a period of disorder and corruption began, people started cruel businesses. They would simply kill cats, wrap them in cloth, and sell them, presenting them as sacred cat mummies. It was a terrible sacrilege, but alas, documents have been found that confirm this story. Stories like these make us even more attached to our pets. Imagine Prince Thutmose caring for his beloved pet, giving her eternal rest in an expensive, beautiful sarcophagus. It's truly touching. And did you know that the Egyptians were among the first to domesticate cats? Yes, my friends, they were true cat lovers, back when most people saw these animals only as wild predators. And don't forget, every time you pet your cat, you're continuing a tradition that has lasted for thousands of years. Your pets deserve the same love that Prince Thutmose showed to his beloved Tamid. Remember this and take care of your furry friends. The friendship between the inhabitants of ancient Egypt and aliens, as well as the connection between ancient Egypt and UFOs, is a subject of interest for many researchers and enthusiasts of paranormal phenomena. Many facts remain speculation, but there are also details that cannot be explained logically. In some temples and pyramids, you can find drawings that resemble modern depictions of UFOs. The best-known example is the image on the walls of Ramses II's temple in Abu Simbel. On one of the walls, researchers discovered an image of a flying saucer with a rounded shape and strange aerodynamic features. Among other pieces of evidence, there are numerous records on papyrus dedicated to UFOs. One of them translates as, "and a fiery circle appeared in the sky. It had no head, but a terrible stench came from its mouth. Its body was enormous, and it was voiceless." It's a bit scary, isn't it? Similar records were kept by a chronicler from 3,500 years ago. He claimed the sky was filled with fiery discs, but the pharaoh remained calm, kept the warriors from fleeing, and the flying objects vanished instantly. Concepts like winged shields and fiery discs are repeatedly found in ancient Egyptian written religious sources. Iron was hardly mined in ancient Egypt and was a rare metal, but the writings often mention iron thrones, scepters, and clothing intended for the pharaoh. The sun god wore metal and sat on an iron and fire throne, which sounds strange. Special attention should be paid to the Abydos hieroglyphs discovered in the Memorial Temple Hall of Pharaoh Seti, Piao. Here, ufologists noticed a helicopter, a submarine, a glider, and an airship. The photos of the discovery were long thought fake, but their authenticity was soon confirmed. Some suggested ancient Egypt's inhabitants could see the future. Other scientists believe that aliens travel through time and simply told them about the events of the 20th century. Skeptics firmly reject these ideas, arguing the images result from two overlapping hieroglyphs in damaged inscriptions. Between them, there is another, no less astonishing drawing, where a flying disc is dropping an aerial bomb. But critics also have their own logic here. Baran in the thicket years south of present-day Iraq. In 1928, Leonard Woolley excavated the Royal Cemetery and pulled out from the debris what at first looked like a broken wooden stick with lumps of metal. After restoration, a figure appears, an animal on its hind legs reaching for a branched bush. It was given the poetic nickname Ram in the Thicket, although zoologically, it is more likely a goat with curled horns. Its age is around 2,550 before Common Era, which means it is 4,500 years old. The figurines were found in the rich burial of a noble Sumerian, next to whom lay sacrificial remains, 68 women and 5 men. It was a status ritual. No one entered the afterlife alone. The ram is made of wood covered with thin sheets of metal, copper gilding, and is inlaid with lapis lazuli and shell. The diamond-shaped pattern on the base may refer to mountains. The branching bush is often seen as the world tree, linking earth and sky. A practical view is the figurines, acted as stands for bowls in sacrifice rituals. The animal stands upright, holding a branch that could support a vessel with a drink or sacrificial liquid during the ritual. This single object encapsulates the Sumerian world: elite sacrifice, master craftsmanship, cosmic symbolism, and practical altar use. The ram reminds us that for ancient people, beauty, faith, and daily life coexisted in one object, which is why such artifacts last thousands of years. The Leidenberg heads between 1962 and 1964. A boy in Leidenberg, Mpumalanga, South Africa, discovered strange ceramic fragments being washed out of a ravine. These pieces were collected and reconstructed into 7 heads. Known as the Leidenberg heads, which are the earliest known examples of Iron Age art south of the equator, the heads dating to 500 AD, were used for ceremonial purposes by the ancient inhabitants. The Lindenberg heads include 2 large and 5 smaller heads with a rough texture and colors from red to golden orange. Each has holes indicating possible ritual or costume use. Scholars believe that the heads were created by the Bantu people who practiced agriculture and metallurgy. Excavations and anthropological studies have disproved the assumption that the heads were made from human skulls, confirming their ceramic origin. A canopy of gold. Recently, Mexican scientists invested 9.5 million pesos in acquiring 3 unique documents from the late 16th century. This investment opened a new chapter in history, providing valuable information about the period when the Spanish arrived in the lands of modern-day Mexico. We are talking about the Codices of San Andrés Tetepilco, compiled at the turn of the 16th and 17th centuries, which vividly illustrate the events of that time, including the era of the rule of Izcuatl, the 4th ruler of Tenochtitlan, founder of the Aztec Empire, and the arrival of Hernán Cortés. These rare codices were purchased for the National Library of Anthropology and History, thanks to the efforts and support of individuals and organizations. A payment of 9.5 million pesos made it possible to return them from private hands to public ownership. Analysis showed that the codices were made from amate, a traditional paper made from tree bark using natural dyes, which highlights the high craftsmanship of their creators. Joint work with experts from several scientific institutions proved the documents were inauthentic. The San Andrés Tetepilco codices stand out among other artifacts due to their unique combination of indigenous traditions with European influence. They contain texts in the Nahuatl and Spanish languages written in the Latin alphabet. This treasure offers a chance to further study and understand an important period in the region's history. The most mysterious people of Europe. Archaeologists have discovered an altar from the Roman era in a monastery on Mount Ariondi in northern Spain, dedicated to the mysterious deity Loraki. Dated to the 1st century AD, the find is crucial for studying the Voskhans' religious practices, one of Europe's most mysterious peoples. This is one of 4 known altars to Loraki, but the only one found in excavations. It was discovered at the bottom of a well in Dunastebe Monastery. The altar inscription reads, "Valery Vitel fulfills his vow to Loraki, who is free and deserving." Mount Ariondi, inhabited since Roman times, sits in the Gulina River Valley near Pamplona. Its strategic location made this place important throughout history, as evidenced by the remains of Roman infrastructure and a later monastery dedicated to Saint Stephan. Little is known about Loraki, and worship of this deity is evidenced by only 3 other altars. The new discovery expands the known geographical spread of the cult of Loraki. A figurine that is 7,800 years old. In the Ulukak Mound, in the western Turkish province of Izmir, archaeologists made an impressive discovery. They managed to find a clay statuette of a female figure that is about 7,800 years old. Professor Ozlan Chevik, who leads these excavations, emphasized the significance of this site as the first settlement of farmers in the region. This mound is among Western Anatolia's oldest settlements, with 8,850-year-old artifacts found by archaeologists. For generations, people lived here, building villages over time. One of the most impressive artifacts is a clay figurine of a woman found during recent excavations. Researchers had previously found such figurines, but many of them were broken. This is the 3rd figurine found in perfect condition. There is a theory that these figurines represent images of gods. However, some of them were found in a dump, which makes this theory less likely. It is possible that the figurines were used in various rituals related to important life events, such as the birth of a child or the harvest. The Altamira Cave in the province of Cantabria, Spain, is one of the most famous caves with prehistoric art in the world. These polychrome cave paintings, dating from 15,000 to 36,000 years ago, are from the Magdalenian culture of the late Paleolithic. The walls of the cave depict realistic scenes with animals such as bison, horses, and deer, created using charcoal and natural pigments. In addition to animals, You can also see human handprints here, which gives this place not only artistic value but also deep symbolic significance. The cave was accidentally discovered in 1868 by a local resident, Modesto Cubillas, but it gained worldwide fame thanks to the research of Marcelino Sanso de Sautola at the end of the 19th century. His work helped convince the world that these works of art were created by prehistoric humans. Because for a long time, scientists believed these drawings were modern. The Altamira Cave provides a unique chance to explore ancient people's art and life. The drawings' complexity and expressiveness show the advanced culture and creativity of these primitive artists. Currently, access to the original cave is restricted to preserve these unique works, but there is a museum nearby with an exact replica of the drawings, allowing visitors to experience the grandeur of this ancient gallery. People gathered bones and observed. In Siberia, archaeologists have found many mammoth bones near an ancient settlement for decades. At first, it was believed to be a natural cemetery. That is, animals died near bodies of water and their remains gradually accumulated in one place over time. When scientists closely examined the bone arrangement, they saw the bones weren't randomly scattered. They were collected, layered, some burned, and many showed tool marks, notches, and fractures. This suggested human activity, not a natural death. A new theory emerged. People of the late Paleolithic didn't just hunt. They gathered mammoth bones in one place as if they were creating reserves, something like a prehistoric warehouse. Such bones were used for fuel. They burned poorly, but it's better than nothing. Large bones went into buildings and dwellings. Smaller ones became tools or trade goods. This changes the picture. We're used to thinking of them as nomads, constantly on the move. But here, there's strategy and resource planning. It wasn't a random catch. Even an animal's death became building material in this system. All this is not an isolated case, but part of a chain. Similar deposits have been found in other places as well. Maybe we overlooked for too long that what we saw wasn't natural chaos, but ancient human handiwork. A map that no one ever printed, hidden in the archives of one of the European libraries, lost among the manuscripts of the 17th century. A hand-drawn map shows Egypt differently, detailing the river, ridges, and temples, but something about it seems off. Cities with named streets are marked in what is now desert, contradicting the official claim that nothing existed there. Some are now just sand and rocky plateau. When this map was first digitized, researchers believed the author made a mistake or invented it. But then satellite images showed outlines resembling city shapes. They're hidden under the sand, visible only from above, not from the ground. Who made this map, and how did they have information that even Napoleon didn't have? One name matches an ancient Egyptian word for gates of return. Some people are convinced that this map is a copy from an even older source, one that has been lost or hidden. And that means someone had information about an Egypt we will never see again. A factory on bones, a factory 125,000 years ago, Lake Neumark Nord, what is now Germany. Archaeologists recovered 120,000 bone fragments and 16,000 flint tools from the layer of silt, not knives, but heavy hammers. Nearly all long bones of horses, deer, and aurochs are split along a precise seam, as if opened for their contents. Nearby are ancient hearths with ash, charred nuts, acorns, and blackthorn. The focus, though, is on the bone cauldrons. The tubular bones are charred outside, cleaned inside, and set vertically in the fire. They melted the marrow into liquid fat, a calorie-rich food essential to avoid rabbit starvation and death on a protein-only Ice Age diet. The hunters dragged carcasses to the water, broke them up, rendered the fat, mixed it with plants, and likely stored or traded it for other resources. This is not the improvisation of starving wanderers. It looks more like a food factory, where preparation, processing, and logistics of finished products took place. Lake Neumark Nord challenges the idea of primitive Neanderthal life. We are looking at people who planned seasonal menus, understood the chemistry of nutrition, and put fatty fuel into mass production long before the first clay pot appeared. A sunken ship with lead ingots. About 2,000 years ago, a Roman ship sank in the Mediterranean Sea with a valuable cargo, among which were massive lead ingots. The heaviest of them weighs 68 kilograms, which is about 205 Roman pounds. According to the University of Alicante, the markings on the ingot indicate that it belonged to a Roman emperor, possibly Nero. In addition, there were about 3,000 jars of fish sauce on board the ship. This sauce, known as garum, was popular in Roman cuisine and was widely used as a seasoning. The ship was about 32 meters long, and at the time it sank, it was probably traveling from Cadiz to Rome. The ship carried valuable metals and food products essential to the Roman diet. Studying the sunken ship offers a unique chance to explore ancient Roman shipbuilding and trade methods. A pot with coins in the fireplace. This remarkable discovery has undoubtedly become a real breakthrough in the study of Scottish history, and in particular the history of the MacDonald clan. The coins not only served as a means of payment in that era, but were also a symbol of wealth and status for their owner. Researchers cannot say with certainty that the treasure belonged to Alistair Rued MacLean MacDonald, but a large amount of evidence suggests this. The tragic story of the massacre at Glencoe is one of the darkest periods in the history of Scotland, and these coins may be one of the last pieces of evidence of that terrible tragedy. The treasure in the summer house highlights the owner's importance and status. The remains of expensive ceramics and other luxury items indicate the high social status and prosperity of the inhabitants of this house. These artifacts present a unique opportunity to see the everyday life and routine of the nobility of that time, allowing researchers to understand how clan leaders and their closest circle lived and what they did. The ancient city in Micronesia is an amazing complex built on artificial islands connected by a network of canals, which is why it is often called the Venice of the Pacific. The complex includes about 100 artificial islets. The islands were created from massive basalt blocks, laid out in such a way as to form walls, platforms, and buildings. Each structure is surrounded by water canals, which makes this place even more mysterious and impressive. The age of Nan Madol is estimated to be around 1,500 years, and some studies suggest that the first structures may have appeared much earlier. Archaeologists believe that the construction of this complex began at the end of the first millennium AD. It is possible that it was under the leadership of the local rulers of the Sodelur dynasty, who used Nan Madol as a ceremonial and administrative center. The main mystery of Nan Madol lies in how the inhabitants of Pohnpei Island were able to build such a complex and massive city with limited technology and resources. The basalt blocks used in the construction weigh from several hundred kilograms to several tons, and transporting and installing such heavy blocks would have required significant effort and knowledge. The basalt was quarried on the other side of the island, which meant it had to be transported across difficult terrain and water. Considering that the ancient builders did not have modern machinery, this achievement seems almost impossible. Some researchers suggest that the stone blocks could have been transported using rafts and ropes, indicating the possible use of a system of levers and ramps. However, none of these theories fully explain how the ancient Micronesians precisely laid and aligned these massive structures. Nan Madol is surrounded by legends and myths. Locals believe the city has magical properties and was built with supernatural powers. Some myths claim that Nan Madol was home to spirits and was used for rituals related to the worship of Pohnpei. To this day, this ancient city inspires awe and respect among the residents of Pohnpei, and they avoid visiting Nan Madol after sunset, believing it to be a place inhabited by spirits. Magic circles in the desert. For decades, scientists have puzzled over the origin of circular patches in the Namib Desert, surrounded by grass which appear and disappear seemingly without any reason. It seems the mystery is solved. These so-called magic circles, ranging from 2 to 10 meters in diameter, form an amazing pattern on the surface of one of the driest places on Earth. Their origin was a mystery for a long time. There were two main theories. One linked the circles to termite activity, the other magic circles in the desert. 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 Magic circles. Magic circles in the desert. Magic desert. Magic desert. Magic in the desert. Magic desert. Magic circles in the 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 desert. The amazing ability of nature to self-organize and adapt to changing environmental conditions. Stone Age tunnels. Imagine a labyrinth of tunnels beneath Europe, stretching from Scotland to the Mediterranean. These mysterious tunnels date back to the Stone Age and have existed for 12,000 years. Archaeologists such as Genrikh Kush are amazed by this wonder. The tunnels, just 70 centimeters wide, run for hundreds of kilometers underground and include resting places. Who built them and why? Could they have been shelters from enemies or mystical passages of elves and dwarves? What if someone in ancient times tried to build subway lines? Is this an ancient mystery or something more? Perhaps the secrets of these tunnels will remain undiscovered, but they serve as a reminder of how amazing and mysterious ancient civilizations can be. Digging deep underground in the Stone Age without future technologies to create such a tunnel is an impossible task. The Valley of the Golden Mummies. 400 kilometers from Cairo in the Bahariya Oasis lies the Valley of the Golden Mummies. Here, archaeologists discovered 22 mummies covered in gold and decorated with gold coins and jars. All of these are gifts for the gods. Historians believe that this is the burial of a prince who lived in the 6th century before Christ, along with his loyal servants who were sent to the afterlife with him. The uniqueness of this discovery lies in the fact that since 1999, 200 mummies have already been found here, and each one is a true work of art. And the most amazing thing is that archaeologists are not planning to stop and suggest that there could be up to 10,000 mummies here. The accidental discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb. Back in 1922, an archaeologist named Howard Carter encountered the greatest discovery of his life. In the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, he discovered Tutankhamun's tomb, which contained more than 5,000 precious artifacts. But did you know that this expedition might never have happened? Western archaeologists had explored the Valley of the Kings since the early 19th century up to World War I. Excavations were halted and yielded no significant results. At this time, Count Carnaroy Farrow, or George Herbert, who was funding these excavations, appeared on the scene. He was disappointed by the lack of discoveries and was ready to stop funding. But in 1922, he decided to give Howard Carter a chance, who was convinced that there was something important in the Valley of the Kings. It was the last excavation season in the valley. Working tirelessly, Carter and his team had almost lost hope until November 4, 1922, when they discovered the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. It was a sensational discovery that amazed everyone. In the tomb, they found more than 5,000 valuable artifacts that had remained untouched for 3,000 years. Carter's book, found later, contained Count Carnarvon's address, whose support enabled the excavations. Count Carnarvon died the year after the discovery due to complications from a mosquito bite. 50 years after Carter's discovery, many treasures from Tutankhamun's tomb were exhibited at the British Museum. Due to its popularity, the exhibition was extended 6 months and drew over 30,000 visitors in its first week. On the first day of the exhibition, people stood in line for more than 14 hours to see these unique artifacts. Interestingly, in 1921, Howard Carter was a guest of Lord Carnarvon at his castle, as confirmed by the census of that time. It's funny that in Carter's documents, the profession of archaeologist wasn't mentioned. He was called an artist. After Tutankhamun's tomb was cleared in 1932, Carter retired from archaeology. He died 7 years later. This is an inspiring story of how perseverance and self-belief led to a major archaeological discovery. The path to discoveries is not always straightforward and simple, but stories like this show that even the most difficult obstacle can be overcome twice. Olduvai Gorge, Tanzania, about 1.8 million years ago. Archaeologists found 2 different sets of bite marks on the bones of early humans. The first set Wide, jagged notches along the edges, chisel-like, were left by a crocodile. The second layer above showed narrow punctures and long, shallow scratches, typical of a big cat like a leopard. The people were initially caught by a crocodile, then a land predator scavenged the remains. Unfortunately, at that time, this was the usual situation for the early 8 years later. 8 years later, 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 and 8 years. Psychoactive vessels. In 2024, archaeologists found a vessel in the temple of Goddess Hatter, featuring a smiling god Bez, patron of dreams and childbirth, on its walls. And as it turned out, something much stranger. Inside the vessel, traces of a substance were preserved. Its chemical analysis gave an unexpected result, a mixture of alcohol, honey, and psychoactive components, including those that cause strong visual hallucinations. It was basically an ancient psychotropic mix. Strangely, the vessel was ritualistic, and its contents were apparently not for pleasure, but for communication. Maybe with gods, the dead, or others Egyptians sensed but didn't fully understand. In this complex, images were found, showing beings with disproportionate bodies and eyes, too odd to be simple allegories. It is believed that Egyptian priests used such mixtures to enter a special state. During these rituals, they supposedly received knowledge that could not be conveyed in words. It was from such immersions that prophecies, geometric patterns, and architectural solutions emerged. What if the Great Pyramid is also the result of someone's revelation? Bloody prints of Kyoto castles. In Japanese castles of the 16th century, there is one strange detail that tourists rarely notice. On some wooden floors, there are dark stains. They're neither paint nor drawings. These are real imprints of human bodies left after samurai suicides, and they are still visible to this day. Such marks remain, for example, in Fushimi Castle near Kyoto. In 1600, during one of the sieges, several dozen samurai committed suicide to avoid being captured. The blood soaked into the wood, and then the panels bearing their silhouettes were removed and transferred to other temples as a tribute to the fallen. This is Uraida, cursed boards, but officially they're not mystical, just memories absorbed into the floor. In the photographs, you can see how the outlines of bodies are imprinted on the floor, the shapes of hands, heads, hips, as if people lay down and vanished, leaving behind only a shadow. The tomb of Philip II of Macedon was discovered in Vergina, in northern Greece. At the end of the 1970s, the tomb of Philip II of Macedon ranks among the most significant archaeological finds in ancient Macedonia. These tombs near the necropolis of ancient Aigi are believed to be the final resting place of Philip II, king of Macedonia and father of Alexander the Great. The tomb stands out for its splendor and rich artifacts. Archaeologists uncovered weapons, armor, gold and silver items, and rare ossuaries, vessels for cremated remains. One ossuary, adorned with a gold oak wreath, held bones thought to be Philip II's. This discovery confirmed ancient accounts of the Macedonian king's grandeur and provided new insights into the cultural and burial practices of the era's elite. The armor and weapons found with the remains show the significance of military affairs in Philip II's life, as he strengthened Macedonia and paved the way for Alexander the Great's future conquests. Itagi's discovery of the century research in the caves of the Danube Valley in southern Germany demonstrates that Stone Age people were not just cave-dwelling savages. The discoveries made in the Swabian Jura show the remarkable artistic abilities our ancestors had about 45,000 years ago. The Swabian Jura may be the cradle of modern European man. This is evidenced by the figurines made from mammoth tusks found here, which are up to 40,000 years old. A recent discovery in the karst cave Hohlefels, located near Blauburen, confirms this assumption. During the excavation, a student from Denmark found an animal figurine about 6 centimeters long, although its head is missing. Scientists believe that this is an image of an otter. Archaeologists call this artifact the find of the year. About 45,000 years ago, Homo sapiens arrived in the Danube region, living alongside Neanderthals. Previously, it was believed that modern humans settled more actively in the territory of present-day France, as evidenced by the discoveries of cave paintings. However, the Swabian Jura figurines reshape our view of ancient European settlement and life. The region's caves have been researched since the mid-19th century. The findings include stone and bone tools, as well as ornaments, which provide important information about the lives of Neanderthals and other early representatives of humanity. In the mid-20th century, the Nazi organization Ahnenerbe also conducted excavations here, seeking evidence of the existence of ancient Aryans. In recent years, excavations in the caves have resumed and new discoveries have been made, including a figurine of a woman known for its depiction with ample breasts and expressive feminine features, which likely symbolized fertility. Other discoveries, like ancient bird bone flutes, show our ancestors had advanced spirituality and art. The nasty dinosaur of Cambodia, the Ta Prohm temple from the late 12th century. In one niche, there's a palm-sized bas-relief of a lizard with 4 legs and plates on its back. Tourists quickly called it a stegosaurus, since only late Jurassic dinosaurs in textbooks have such plates. The relief is carved at the same level as many other ornaments and uses the same gray sandstone. The wall is covered with a thin biological patina. The thickness of the coating was measured with a laser scanner. It is even with no clean tracks that would have been left by recent carving. Chemical analysis of the patina showed an age of at least 500 years. This means the work dates to when the temple was built, as archaeologists have noted. The plates match in shape and are arranged just like palm leaves, which Ta Prohm artists often use to frame animal figures. Without the leafy border, you picture a typical rhinoceros: large body, thick legs, short tail. This matches the rhinoceros imagery in Angkor bas reliefs. And now I'll explain why the dinosaur version appeared. By the early 2000s, the coating on the stones had partially worn away, the edges of the leaves were eroded, and the silhouette began to resemble the outline of plates. The photos circulated on paleomyth forums, and the story spread without verification. After microabrasive cleaning in 2023, remnants of the leaves, veins, and small carvings became visible, features never shown on dinosaur backs. This is just a regular Khmer rhinoceros. The plates are palm parts eroded over time. Dinosaur, though what we really see is a faded background, the mystery of Alak-Ikom's monoliths. About 300 stone monoliths dating from the 16th to early 20th century have been found in Cross River State, southern Nigeria. These monoliths, arranged in circles and made of volcanic stone, are astonishing in their diversity. They range in height from 30 centimeters to 1.8 meters. The unique carvings, repeating patterns, stylized faces, and mysterious inscriptions, possibly representing ancient writing, attract the most attention. Dinosaur, the mystery of the Ikoma monoliths, the mystery of the Alak-Ikoma monoliths. The mystery of the Alak-Ikoma monoliths, the mystery of the Ikoma monoliths, the mystery of the Alak-Ikoma monoliths, the mystery of the Alak monoliths, the mystery of Alak-Ikoma, the monoliths of Alak-Ikoma, the mystery of the Alak monoliths, the mystery of the Alak monoliths, the mystery of the Alak-Ikoma monoliths, the mystery of the Alak monoliths, the mystery of the Alak-Ikoma monoliths. The meaning, connected with the ancestor cult, according to local beliefs, is that each monolith symbolizes an ancestor whose soul continues to dwell in the stone, linking the living with the spirits of those who have passed away. This tradition preserves generational connections and respect for Ikoi history and culture. Nevertheless, the monoliths are surrounded by many mysteries. Their exact history, the meanings of the symbols carved on them, and their purpose of use have not yet been revealed. Despite years of research, the ancient stone inscriptions remain undeciphered, challenging archaeologists and historians. Currently, the monoliths are under threat due to weather exposure, erosion, and vandalism, making their preservation a pressing issue for the entire world. ancient graffiti in the Sigiriya fortress. These are unique inscriptions found on the walls of the ancient Sigiriya fortress, located atop a monolithic rock in central Sri Lanka. These graffiti represent one of the most important collections of ancient inscriptions on the island, dating approximately from the 5th to the 8th centuries AED. They were left by visitors to the fortress, including poets, pilgrims, and travelers. On the mirror walls, polished to a shine, which once adorned the inner halls and corridors of the palace. The Sigiriya graffiti are poetic lines, comments, and personal impressions written in the Sinhalese language using ancient forms of script. Despite their historical value, the interpretation of the Sigiriya graffiti is a subject of debate among historians. Questions about who exactly left these inscriptions, their social status, motives, and purposes remain unanswered. Some researchers believe that the graffiti were created by members of the upper classes who visited the palace, while others suggest that they could have belonged to pilgrims and merchants, indicating that the fortress was accessible to the general public. Egyptian artifacts in Antarctica. This story seems fictional, but some sources, including World War II military expedition reports, mention strange discoveries in Queen Maud Land, Antarctica. Among them are fragments of columns supposedly covered with hieroglyphs and remains of stone structures resembling Egyptian capitals. Officially, none of this has been recognized, and all the objects have either disappeared or have been declared natural formations. But the question remains, where did this evidence come from? One theory says Antarctica was once covered in ice. The 16th century Peary race map accurately depicts the continent's ice-covered coastline, a feat modern cartographers only matched with satellites. How did a 1500s cartographer know this? Or who did he copy it from if he didn't? Some alternative researchers believe that civilizations could have moved between continents long before our current understanding of migration. If Egypt really was part of a network spanning the earth, then perhaps its traces can truly be found in the most unexpected places. Where exactly? A leaked private report described an artifact fragment found in an ice cave, a mysterious metal with engravings and symbols resembling Egyptian ones. The artifact vanished, and all expedition members signed NDAs. A tomb that no one was looking for. A tomb in Saqqara, right next to the Pyramid of Sirkaf. They found a small tomb squeezed between other structures. No paintings or bas-reliefs, just a limestone sarcophagus, some vessels, and a name plaque. The inscription says this is the pharaoh's son, but everything suggests otherwise. The burial is unmarked, hidden from view, and even longtime workers here have never heard of it. It feels like he wasn't just buried, but erased, as if something went wrong. He died at the wrong time for the wrong reasons, or wasn't who he was meant to be. No visible traces remain, but the lack of attention is itself a trace. These discoveries are remembered not for who is found there, but because people tried to ignore them. The Peary race map, created in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Peary Reis, is one of the most famous cartographic artifacts of the age of great geographical discoveries. Although only a fragment of this map has survived to this day, it is kept in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul and was discovered in 1929. The map is of particular interest because it contains a partial copy of the now-lost map of Christopher Columbus, which makes it an important historical document. The Peary Reis map depicts parts of the Atlantic Ocean, including the coasts of Europe, Africa, and South America, an amazingly accurate depiction of South America for the early 16th century, as well as details of the Caribbean and the islands of Hispaniola and Cuba. One of the interesting features of the map is that Cuba is depicted as part of the Asian continent, which is probably due to early misconceptions about the geography of the New World. Another mysterious detail is the southern part of the map, which is interpreted as an early version of Terra Australis, the hypothetical southern continent that was believed to exist at the time. This adds extra intrigue and debate about the possible sources of information used by Peary when creating the map. It is possible that he relied on older maps or used the stories of sailors from his time, which makes this artifact even more significant and mysterious for researchers. The Bassano vase, northern Italy, 15th century. At a wedding, a young bride receives a carved silver vase. She is murdered that night, clutching the vase and cursing it. The vase then passes to relatives, each of whom soon dies. The story repeats so often that people start fearing the object more than any weapon. By the end of the 20th century, the vase was supposedly unearthed again. Inside was a rolled-up sheet with an inscription in English, "Beware this vase, bring death." The warning failed. A pharmacist surgeon and an archaeologist died after contact with the object. Desperate, someone threw the vase out a window, almost hitting a police officer. The museum refused it, and its whereabouts remain unknown. There is little evidence for this series of events. Online, this is more legend than verified artifact, but the story has persisted for decades and still appears in cursed object collections. Sometimes things enter history not through archaeology, but because storytellers remember them. The singing sarcophagi of the Serapeum. Beneath the sands of Saqqara lies a 300-meter-long gallery called the Serapeum. 40 granite boxes, each over 60 tons, stand in the side niches. Egyptologists call them sarcophagi of sacred Apis bulls, but inside they're nearly empty, with only a few bone fragments left. But the key here is the acoustics. When Massachusetts acousticians activated a low-frequency generator in one of the boxes in 2019, the granite emitted a pure 110 Hz tone, matching the chest's resonance frequency. When you stand inside, the sound literally vibrates in your bones. Ancient priests may have used this to induce an altered state in themselves and possibly bulls. But then why would there be half-meter-thick lids with a mirror-polished interior? Some hypothesize the boxes weren't tombs, but resonators amplifying earth vibrations. Their polished interiors reflected sound, creating standing waves. Some researchers believe the complex may have housed a sound organ, a set of chambers, each tuned to specific frequencies. If that's true, the Serapeum isn't a cemetery, but an ancient acoustic energy lab. This place was discovered twice. Archaeologists in southern Cyprus found remains of an ancient sanctuary, a small building, stone foundations, cult activity traces, and nothing unusual. Many such places have been found, but this time there was a catch. This sanctuary had already been discovered many years ago, and then forgotten again. Documentation was lost, it wasn't on the active sites map, and there was no security, signs, or excavations. And now it has been rediscovered and is being studied again. Inside there's an altar, burnt offering remains, and statuette fragments, all suggesting a local cult, likely devoted to a fertility goddess or spirit. Nothing fancy, but everything is neatly and calmly arranged. The place clearly mattered. Radioactive Man, the history of scientific experiments is often creepy. One of those dark pages of history is associated with the codename CAL-1. Behind this designation lies the tragic fate of Albert Stevens. In 1945, the 59-year-old Stevens came to a hospital in San Francisco complaining of abdominal pain. Doctors incorrectly diagnosed him with liver cancer, but Stevens was not informed of the error. Researchers interested in his case needed proof. Stevens, a volunteer for experiments with plutonium discovered in 1941, was unknowingly injected with a lethal dose under the pretense of a vitamin shot. This step was part of an experimental program aimed at studying the effects of radiation on humans. Over the following decades, Stevens regularly underwent medical examinations, unaware of the presence of radioactive material in his body, despite having received a lethal dose of radiation. He lived for another 20 years. In 1975, a year after Stevens died, his remains were studied in a lab but never returned for burial. This story serves as a reminder of the dark chapters of scientific research and the ethical boundaries that should never be crossed. You can only imagine how many similar horrifying experiments are happening now that we don't know about. A tomb that is never opened. Everyone knows the Sphinx, but few realize there may be a sealed, partially concreted cavity beneath it. Back in the 1990s, geophysicist Tomasz Dubecki conducted acoustic sounding of the plateau. An anomaly was discovered under the Sphinx's front paws, a hollow chamber with clear rectangular edges. It couldn't have been a natural formation. It was a room or a tomb or something else. This news shook the world of alternative archaeology. The claims went even further. Ancient Egyptian texts referenced a hall of records, where knowledge left by the gods before the flood was stored. It might be right there beneath the Sphinx. One step, and we could have opened the door to a prehistoric past, but instead there was silence. The Egyptian authorities did not grant permission for excavations, and the site was declared closed for research. Unconfirmed reports say the shaft at the Sphinx's base was filled with concrete without explanation. Why is unclear. Perhaps not because there is nothing there, but because they know exactly what is there. Why was this road flooded? Archaeologists discovered a strange flooded road on Israel's coast years ago. This section, which was recently studied, was part of an ancient trade route that was used back in antiquity. The road passed through several settlements and led to the port, but for some reason it was flooded. The discovery is mysterious because its surfaces are much better preserved than expected for objects thousands of years old. The stone slabs that were used for paving have hardly been damaged, which makes scientists think about the technology that was used in its construction. However, the puzzle that baffles people is that no one knows for sure why the road was flooded. Some believe it was caused by an earthquake, while others think climate or sea changes let water in. All of this remains an open question, and research is ongoing. Rapa Nui Statue's Easter Island, located in the southeastern part of the Pacific Ocean on the edge of the Polynesian Triangle, became home to nearly 1,000 monumental statues created by the ancient Rapa Nui people. The Moai figures were carved from volcanic tuff in the Rano Raraku quarry, and many of them remain there to this day. However, a significant number of the statues were transported and installed on special stone platforms called ahu along the island's coastline. The Moai are notable for their disproportionately large heads, which make up about a third of the statue's total height. These monuments, which lack legs, range in height from 2 to 10 meters, although the largest unfinished statue remains in the quarry and reaches 21 meters. The Moai were considered embodiments of ancestral spirits and played an important role in the ritual life of the Rapa Nui people. How the island's ancient inhabitants moved these giant sculptures over rugged terrain remains unclear. There are hypotheses that they used ropes and ingenious techniques to move the statues to their installation sites with a walking motion. The Moai, facing the villages, likely symbolized ancestors protecting and watching over their descendants. $30,000 worth of luck. Jason Jones, the main character, was a treasure hunter, driven by dreams of a big find. After 2 medieval silver coins were previously found at this site, Jason and his wife decided to search the land again. And they made the right choice. Here's what Jason himself says. When I returned to the spot where the coins were found, my metal detector gave a strong signal, and there, just a few centimeters deep, I found a strange bronze object. My wife was shocked by this find. Jason didn't immediately realize what he had found, so he posted a photo of the discovery on social media. Imagine this. His new toy was actually a Viking-era relic. Jason immediately informed the archaeologists so they could study this unique item in detail. History experts determined that the item found was likely used to decorate Viking helmets. It is a stamp for creating patterns on a metal plate, which was then attached to the helmet. This process is called repoussé, and it creates a light decorative motif. In this case, it served as protection for the warrior's cheeks or nose. The found plate, 14 centimeters long, and weighing 186 grams, is decorated with an exquisite embossed pattern, which, according to experts, represents the mythological world tree Yggdrasil, at the roots of which lives a serpent-like creature named Nidhogg. The Rosetta Stone. When the French were building a fort near the small town of Rosetta, they discovered a strange slab. It was the Rosetta Stone, a piece of a huge stele on which text was carved in 3 languages. The stone had 3 identical inscriptions, but in different languages. Scientists spent years deciphering the text, first translating the Greek, then the Demotic. But the most difficult part turned out to be the hieroglyphs, thanks to the efforts of Jean-François Champollion, who can be called the founder of Egyptology. The mystery of the hieroglyphs was solved. Thanks to the stone, we know who built the pyramids, which gods the Egyptians worshipped, and how they created mummies. And this is just the beginning of the amazing story that the Rosetta Stone and the mummy of the gnome revealed to us. Do you know the legends about little creatures that lived underground? The Ainu? The indigenous people of Japan and Native Americans described them as short beings living in underground worlds. Perhaps they are even the prototype of human gnomes. In 1932, gold prospectors in the San Pedro Mountains blew up a rock and found a strange mummy weighing 340 grams and 46 centimeters tall. The dwarf was coated in a dark substance and had extremely bulginess. Scientists wondered for a long time who it was, a doll, a child's mummy, or proof of some ancient race. The mummy disappeared, and its fate remains unknown. Many ufologists consider it possible evidence of a near-human or even extraterrestrial race. No one knows where the mysterious mummy is now. Ancient Roman sundials, my friends, get ready to be amazed. Now I'll tell you about an astonishing artifact from ancient Rome. Bronze sundials in the shape of ham legs. Yes, you heard that right. This amazing item was found in the 18th century at the famous Villa of the Papyri in Herculaneum. It was nicknamed the ham clock or prosciutto clock. On the bronze ham, there is a curved table depicted which helped measure the length of a shadow. The vertical columns show the names of the Roman months, and the horizontal lines indicate the number of hours from sunrise to sunset. The gnomon broke off and was lost, but in 2016, scientists made a 3D printed copy of the clock and added a gnomon tail to the ham. Researchers conducted experiments and found that the clock works quite well. It may seem that the clock is not very accurate, but the Romans did not need to know the time to the minute. Moreover, this clock was more of a status symbol, like modern ones. There are many interesting things about it, just like modern ones. There are interesting things in this, just like with modern ones. And modern ones also have interesting things for modern ones, interesting things in this. Just like with modern ones, and modern ones have interesting things like modern things in this. Modern ones have many interesting things in, like for modern ones, interesting things in this, like modern ones have in a Belgian secondhand store. There's a shelf with dishes, dusty plates, cups, and old glassware. Suddenly, a handmade ceramic dish appears, inscribed on the back, Embrento Original de Picasso. Initially thought to be a joke or replica, they checked and found it was genuine, an authentic work by Pablo Picasso from 1953, one of the serial but still rare ceramic prints that he made in France. How it ended up in a secondhand store is unknown. Perhaps it was lost, forgotten, discarded, or simply no longer valued. The plate sold at auction for 12,600 euros, but that's not the main point. The effect is like discovering an autograph in a textbook or an original letter among scrap paper. Findings like these are surprising because they challenge the myth that value is always where you expect. Sometimes art sits on a shelf among trash for decades, waiting for someone to take a closer look. A 2-meter-tall statue of a man with a penis. In southeast Turkey, at the pre-pottery Neolithic sites Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe, archaeologists made remarkable finds. At Göbekli Tepe, they discovered a wild boar statue painted red, white, and black. This monumental figure is placed on a pedestal decorated with H-shaped signs, a crescent symbol, images of 2 snakes, and 3 faces or masks. At Karahan Tepe, researchers found a statue over 2 meters tall of a man in an unusual pose and a sculpture resembling a vulture. The Ministry of Culture and Tourism of Turkey presented these discoveries. Statues and other artifacts were also discovered there, including structures with phallus-shaped pillars and a stone head of a man. According to some assumptions, this complex may even be older than Göbekli Tepe. Lost cities in the Sahara on old satellite images of the Sahara. In areas where there seemed to be nothing, strange outlines began to appear. Straight lines, squares, sometimes semicircles. as if they were the bases of domes. Scientists first thought geology was to blame, but when shapes repeated, it was clear this wasn't natural. There are especially many of these phantom structures in the southwest of Egypt, in the Gilf Kabir area, where today there is only sand. At one time, entire settlements, not Bedouin, but stone and proportional, stood there, with wall remnants revealing a street grid. These sites are now buried, with no excavations underway. The local tribes insist it's better not to go there. They say those are forgotten places left behind by those who came before the sun. A man went for a walk in Britain with a metal detector, just to check out a field where something Roman had already been found before. He expected to find at most some fragments, but instead he found one of the largest coin hoards in recent years. Almost 1,500 bronze coins from the time of Roman Britain, 3rd to 4th century A.E. Aphrodite. Many feature emperor portraits, inscriptions, and symbols. The condition is remarkable. Nearly all are clean, undamaged, and look as if they were just placed in the ground. Interestingly, there was no building or burial nearby. The coins were just buried as if someone left them and never returned. The man followed the rules. He reported the find, called archaeologists, the hoard was documented, sent to the museum, and he got a reward. The main point isn't the money, it's how close everyday life is to history. Sometimes simply walking across a field lets you unearth something that's been silent for centuries. The golden pectoral from the Tolstaya Mogila, this artifact discovered in 1971 in the Dnipropetrovsk region on the territory of modern Ukraine, is one of the most impressive artifacts of Scythian culture. This exquisite jewelry dates to the 4th century before Christ and was discovered in a major Scythian burial mound. The pectoral is a golden chest ornament weighing over 1 kg and about 30 centimeters in diameter. It is crafted with a high degree of skill and detail, which testifies to the significant development of craftsmanship. The pectoral features 3 rows of bas-reliefs showing Scythian life and myths. The upper and lower rows display realistic animals like lions, griffins, deer, and birds, symbolizing strength and power. The middle row, the most detailed, shows scenes of Scythian daily life, people with horses, women preparing food, and figures doing crafts. These scenes may represent allegories or illustrations of mythological plots related to the cosmology and religious beliefs of the Scythians. The mystery of the golden pectoral lies not only in its artistic value, but also in its symbolic meaning. It was found in a royal burial, which indicates that it belonged to a high-ranking person, possibly a king or a priest. The scenes on the pectoral likely reflect the Scythians' complex religious beliefs, including ancestor worship, the afterlife, and reverence for natural forces. Some follow. Investigators think the pectoral may have served ritual purposes, symbolizing the transition between the living and the dead. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, everyone.